We're living through a transformation in how real estate is being used, designed and managed. It has a $70 trillion total asset value in the US. It employs 14 million people, pays $600 billion to local governments in taxes, and is responsible for 72% of local budgets, 1/3 of which funds local public education in the US. But with rising interest rates, rising labor costs, housing shortages, and changes in how land and the built environment is being used, it's not an easy time for the sector. And maybe for that reason, it's a great time to explore how Proptech can better meet the needs of tenants, owners, and operators. I'm Farhan Abbasi. I'm the CEO of New Holdings, a real estate investment and management firm with a 12-year history of delivering cash flow and equity growth to everyday investors through value-add real estate. Our motto is a world of new discoveries, shared experiences, and personal choice. Our management brand, staynew.com, STAYNUE, is a tech-forward operator of vacation rentals, boutique hotels, and urban flexible stays. I was an early adopter of the modern sharing economy as one of Boston's first Airbnb hosts, and I'm deeply ingrained with the tech ecosystem evolving in hospitality. Panelists, please take a minute to introduce yourselves, and then I'd like to ask the audience some questions before we begin our chat.
How's it going? My name's PJ Mugford. I'm the founder of Revise. We are a tech-forward commercial real estate platform. Prior to starting Revise, I had spent my first startup was out of college, and then I transitioned into commercial real estate working for CBRE for almost 6 years. And then after that, I was at Unispace, a commercial real estate workplace strategy design and construction firm, and found my two founders and started Revise.
Cool. Nice to meet all of you. My name is Ben. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a company called Grotto AI. We focus on multifamily real estate. I do not have a background originally in real estate. My background is in building machine learning platforms and systems with a focus on language and audio understanding. I spent most of my career building those types of systems, working with machine learning researchers kind of before ChatGPT's era to scale out and deploy language understanding models. Around the time that ChatGPT came out, I kind of saw a shift in the market and wanted to start working on vertical AI, vertical industries. I'd never done that before. I joined a company called Evolution IQ, which was changing the way that claims guidance was being done in the insurance space. I led their language understanding team, and we scaled up their usage of large language models and LLMs and NLP tooling, and sort of revolutionized the way that they were handling claim data and claim insurance data. That company got acquired by CCC Intelligent Solutions earlier this year for $730 million. And my co-founder and I were both working at Evolution IQ, exploring other industries that we could apply the same tech to. About a year before the acquisition, we started looking at real estate, got really excited about the applications specifically in multifamily. And when that company was acquired, we started Grotto right away.
Fantastic. Audience, I'd like to ask you some questions just to kind of get a lay of the land of who you are. Raise your hand if your role is in real estate brokerage. Okay, nobody. All right. How about real estate development or investment? All right, a little more. Property management. Real estate technology. Okay, a little bit more. All right. And then raise your hand if you're thinking of jumping into any one of these. Okay, a few. All right. Thank you, folks. So good, kind of a good mixture over here. Now we're going to see which asset classes the audience is familiar with. So raise your hand if you've dabbled in single family, multifamily, hospitality, office, industrial. Okay. And did I miss anyone? Yeah, sure. Data centers. Data centers. Thank you. All right, wonderful. Anyone else? No. Okay, cool.
What if you think you're jumping out of real estate?
No. All right. So Ben, Peter, which asset classes have you guys covered in your career?
So the course of my professional career, I spent the majority of my time in office and life science leasing, which is a really interesting time now. I went from like the gold rush of when everyone couldn't find office space in Boston, and I had left commercial brokerage in 2020 mid-year, right after COVID had come out. People were trying to figure out how to go back to work. So it was a really interesting time to make a transition into workplace strategy, which is when I went to Unispace. 5 years later, it's still about the same. Extremely high vacancy rates. You're starting to slowly see the creep back, but it's such a seismic shift from when I was in the industry where, trying to find a tech company space in Boston was non-existent. In 2018, 19, it was truly unbelievable. And same with life science. Now there's an overabundance of inventory of life science space in Boston as well. So it's just a really interesting time to be in that sector. On a personal level, have a great deal of experience with multifamily as well as medical office and retail. So that's my background. So I can kind of speak across all different verticals of commercial real estate.
Cool. Yeah. So Grotto, we started by digging actually into single family. But the reason we didn't end up pursuing anything in single family, at least at the time, was because both of my and my co-founder Nick's background is really in processing large amounts of data, especially text and structural data. And the way to acquire large amounts of data in the single family space is particularly difficult because every time you acquire a new customer or even like a broker, you're only getting access to single digit or low double digit number of both like units themselves and also people living in those units, just not enough data to drive legitimate signal or enough signal that we wanted. So that's when we moved into multifamily. So specifically, we operate in multifamily, mostly Class A and workforce housing, and we work with firms with about 10,000+ units.
Fantastic. Guys, give us a lay of the land of the Proptech that's in vogue today.
Right now, I'd say agentic AI is really being rolled out across different verticals within commercial real estate. There's a lot of mundane tasks in commercial real estate. Anyone that's familiar with it, if it's from the multifamily sector, reporting monthly rents, vacancy, demand, a lot of different roles are being rolled out across large organizations, and that's where I see things going right now. I don't know what you think, Ben.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. There's a lot of I think the term agentic means a different thing to every person in the audience, so it might be hard to like fully align on that. But there's definitely a lot of automation that's going on in commercial. I think that there's starting to be more automation in multifamily. We've been questioning if the right things are being automated, and so we're trying to look at that and see if are we automating maybe not the best practices in the industry? Can we rethink those practices with the data that we have? I don't know if that's in vogue yet, but that's what we're at least focused on.
So I want to give a bit of a landscape that covers like a broad spectrum. So I'll just kind of start listing off a few, and then I'll land with a question at the end. You have AI valuation and analytics. So for automated property valuations, rents forecasts, investment insights. You have virtual assistant and chat bots for tenant buyer support, scheduling, property search, property management automation for lease management, tenant screening, maintenance scheduling, predictive maintenance, and Internet of Things. You guys remember that term? Smart monitoring of equipment, issue prevention. You got smart building and home automation, pretty closely related, but more focusing on like energy controls and lighting and security and comfort. Immersive tech, 3D property tours, augmented reality, overlays for design, blockchain, of course, digital ledgers, smart contracts, tokenized ownership, digital document authentication for AI lease assembly, contract review, data entry, big data and market intelligence, of course, you guys touched upon that, trend forecasting, consumer behavior, pricing models, and then finally sustainability and energy management for smart energy use. Did I miss anything? So just want to, give you an idea of like sort of the depth and breadth of Proptech, right? In the various applications. And I think one of the goals for me as a moderator today is for some of you to start thinking through ways in which maybe there could be uncovered opportunities. So that kind of leads me to the question of where do you guys see low-hanging fruit not being taken advantage of today?
So I would say people-centric tools. And what I mean by that is, at least from commercial real estate, a lot of tools that are developed and produced aren't focused actually on the people that are going to occupy the space. And you can take that even to multifamily. It's all about, we're talking building systems and, maybe ways to underwrite a deal that you might buy. But at the end of the day, who's occupying these spaces, whether it be multi or if it's commercial? It's people. So if you can develop tools and prop tech that are focused on the individual that's going to occupy those spaces, you're going to be like a leg up on everyone else. And that's what, where we see things at Revise right now. We're developing tools that are people focused first. And then once we have that information, then you can use the data and apply it to how it can be, better well suited for whatever space that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think this is on me because you and I did not actually meet up closely before this, but we do functionally the exact same thing in multifamily.
Okay,
That's
cool.
Our entire focus is personalizing the experience of finding the next place that you live.
Awesome.
Nice. I'll add some commentary where I think there are opportunities from my purview, being in the vacation rental and hospitality tech side of things. So with hospitality tech, I see opportunities in revenue management, channel marketing, guest experience, and property care. Particularly, there's a missing middle in flexible midterm rentals. So there's plenty of long-term rental data. There's plenty of short-term rental data. But the data for furnished rentals in the 1 to 11 month range and sublets and such, it's very fragmented and harder to gather. So I challenge someone in the audience to really look at those data sources and see if there's interesting solutions for that product. For lenders and investors, I think of underwriting. I think that should get interesting with real-time AI driven tool sets where buyers and sellers can tap into real-time data across asset classes to help forecast revenue, including data centers and maintenance and CapEx. So for designers and developers, I'm thinking space planning to identify the highest and best use for properties, how to add value in different interesting ways with placemaking, repositioning, or asset conversions. I think there's some interesting ways that AI can assist in that both. So next question, which traditional part of the real estate process would you love to kill off forever?
I mean, for us, it would be brokers hoarding data. And I bet you, Ben, and you can both attest to that. For whatever reason, commercial real estate's not very good at creating transparency with data and some of the information that you want out there. So if you want to get the best availability on maybe residential options for renting, you're going to go to the broker who has that listing, and he may or may not give you that information. From our experience, we deal in commercial office space. The IP of that broker that has the most market intel is his leg up of why you're going to hire him versus another firm. And right now, it seems crazy to me that we're in 2025 and a lot of the data is out there, but it's just all kept within the brokerage. You're not going to share it with other people. And a lot of the information should be shared. I think a great example of it is landlords. Even landlords don't want to provide full transparency on like availabilities. One of the largest landlords is a client of ours. And, we're building this platform. We've been working on it for 2.5 years. And we asked them why their website does not show the correct availability in the building. Now, you would think in historic lows right now for office space in Boston that you would want the correct availability to show on your website. They actually said they don't want it to show up on their website correctly because they want an actual person to call their broker to get that information from them. And you would say, okay, well, if you're the bank or the lender that owns the majority of this building, so you have a 40% vacancy in this building, and this building has about 35-40%. You want the incorrect availabilities to force a broker to have to call our broker. Like that to me is a broken process, but that is the world that we live in. And I think it's no different than even in residential. Now, residential doesn't have those historic high vacancy rates, at least here in Boston. But when you understand that, then you can understand if you're trying to build a tool, why is that? Why do they actually want to hoard all the data? So if we could get rid of people hoarding data and actually create the level of transparency that I think everyone deserves, it would make a process across all the different verticals within real estate significantly better.
Yeah, I think it's the exact same thing in our world with the PMSs, with the RD and Trotter Real Page, et cetera. Like I think those companies have built valuable systems on the data that they collect and manage and store. And I think that's fine. And they can charge for that data despite it maybe being crazy the way that they charge for that data, but they have to at least make it accessible. There's a lot of systems that we want to interact with that would make our customers' lives better. For example, we had a workflow that we wanted to automate for our customers. Very, very easy for us. We have all the information we need. There is no API for us to connect to within one of the PMSs to actually do the thing. Like they have this experimental API. I'm sure it's been experimental since 1972. And we said, like, we can automate this for you. And they said, we don't want you to, they actually said, we do not want you to automate this for us because we don't trust the API of the PMS. We think their API will break and we don't want our users hating your product because you can't interface with the PMS. That's crazy to me. We've been quoted in a suite of APIs from certain PMSs, $25,000 per year per single API. So if there are like 100 APIs, $250,000 a year to use an API. If you use, there is no, I come from the tech world, there's no company in the world that could imagine charging you $25,000 for one single API that works 60% of the time. Like that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Peter, I want to say that I'm glad we took that poll where no brokers are in the room today because but you know you might have pissed off a broker or two. I'm going to piss off one of the lawyers in the audience, so I apologize in advance. My commentary, my answer to that is, you know, offering documents. So we do private equity deals in multifamily and hotels, and every single deal we have to spend another $17,000 on our offering docs. So can we please just get some uniformity around offering documentation? So that's kind of my, I think, low-hanging fruit from a Proptech perspective to be able to gather, legal stratagems across different states and get some uniformity there.
Yeah, I think it's scary for them to open those doors because it's like been a thing that's been making them an enormous amount of money, but there is so much innovation that could happen. They could, if they wanted to, they would make, I think, a lot more money opening up those systems and just building other pieces of innovation. Like, yeah, I get where they're coming from, but I think there's just so much more opportunity to let things move quickly.
Agreed. So money's there. What about the challenges? So what are the challenges of integrating Proptech into real estate practices?
Personally, I think it's changing the industry overall. There's a lot of support staff, as you listed off statistics of how many people are part of an industry. If you start to change and start to implement agentic AI and just other systems, it's gonna replace a lot of jobs. And I think the industry isn't fully ready for that. There are tasks that could be done right now with the tools that are available that would replace a lot of support staff immediately. Like I came from commercial brokerage. CBRE touts itself to be the largest commercial brokerage in the world. There are systems that have been in place currently there that have been going on for 15 years and nothing's being changed. But I think if you're, a CEO of CBRE and JLL and some of the larger brokerages, they truly are afraid what that could do to the industry overall with employees. I think it could actually have a major redundancy if you're using AI and some of the support staff. And I actually think once you're fully immersed in AI and large language models, you'll understand that sometimes it's actually better and more efficient to use and leverage AI and LLMs for a lot of the tasks that you're doing daily in commercial real estate. You still need an expert no matter what you're working on to interpret all this data, but you might not need, and it's sad to say, the second year out of school graduate to do some of the tasks that would have been done currently with computers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my answer is a little bit, I agree with those points, but from where we sit, I think it's a little bit different. There are a lot of companies that are trying to automate, like people away, like you say, and sometimes that can make sense depending on the situation. We work actually largely with leasing agents, and that is a place where there are certain companies trying to automate that job away. This is sort of what I was talking about in the beginning, where I actually think one of the challenges is that there's a lot of excitement about AI and agentic AI. There's a lot less excitement about being able to process enormous amounts of data and actually get insights that were not available before. So we've worked with some particularly large multifamily owners and operators. We have analyzed perhaps the most number of leasing phone calls of any company, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of phone calls. And we have a lot of really interesting information. And one of those pieces of information is actually that you can get a lot more leverage by making leasing agents more effective rather than replacing them with systems, like with bad sales processes today. And that's a big thing that we focus on. One of the challenges for us is convincing internal teams that that's true. Like, we have a lot of data. We have terabytes of phone calls that we've processed, and we have sufficient amounts of data to prove that, like, statistically, but it's challenging to prove to people, like, it's potentially better to make these people more effective and to help them and give them tools to have different, more meaningful, more personalized conversations than to automate a really, I would call, like, C+ interaction with a prospective renter. So that's one piece that we focus on, which is a challenge. The other challenge is when we come in and we are called Grotto AI, we have AI in the name, like AI is in our website. We come in and leasing agents immediately look at us and go, "You're going to replace us." And it's actually a lot of work for us to say, we're not going to replace you. Try to use the product. It's very much tailored for you. It's to help you be better at your job and to have more interesting conversations rather than, like, the checklist of things you're trying to fill out, like your budget and when you're moving in. Like, you can have more interesting and meaningful conversations and get better prospective renters. But convincing them that we're not going to replace them takes like 2 to 3 weeks of them actually using the product, which is a difficult sales cycle.
I can definitely agree with that too. So what we're building for commercial real estate, we try to provide insights to brokers that can help them make decisions for their clients or clients and landlords. So I can totally see what the struggle is when you go and sell your tool as it is now, your platform, because brokers, their first reaction is it's going to replace us. We're dealing with the same thing, but on the commercial side. Little different because landlords pay commercial brokers, whereas, currently in Boston, tenants have to pay brokerage fees now. So it is a little different, but we deal with the exact same struggle with, hold on, is this going to replace us? And we're just trying to get all the data, pull it forward so they can make an informed decision for their client, or the client can make an informed decision with the data that we're pulling forward. But yeah, if you can augment AI and the information and give it to the broker, it's like their kryptonite. Like, they can be supercharged when they're making any type of negotiation with a landlord. And I don't see it any different in the multifamily sector.
Yeah, it's interesting because we right now work really largely in the Sun Belt and Pacific Northwest and the Southeast, and it's a very different landscape of real estate there versus specifically Boston, New York, LA, SF. Like, those are different kinds of markets where, yeah, multifamily specifically, there are way more people looking for apartments right now than there are in Boston and New York for various reasons. But that's a very, very different interaction when you move out of just those 6 cities. When we look at these phone calls, I have listened to, I don't know, 700 of these phone calls. The level of personalization that you can get to when you're enabled to do that leads to such better conversations. You're learning things about these renters. You're learning data. You're able to get them into a better unit than they even potentially called in about. That kind of stuff only happens with a human. Like, you're just not going to get an agent, at least today, to have those kinds of conversations. One, because I don't think that they're good enough, but 2, because, like, I'm not going to open up to an agent. Like, it's just not going to happen.
This is actually related. Did anyone attend the 9 a.m. non-technical founder talk? So I don't know if you guys remember one of the takeaways, one of, like, sort of their pieces of advice was to, yes, adopt AI, incorporate it into your messaging with perhaps investors, but perhaps with some of your clients that see, the word AI as an adversary, to tone that back a little bit and consider dropping it from the name. Right. And have it, kind of powered in the back end, but not necessarily lead with that. So that's something to consider. I just wanted to kind of pass along that takeaway for me when I attended that in the morning. So I have a few more questions, but I actually want to switch it up and actually go to the audience a little early. And then we'll kind of come back to a couple other questions and do a lightning round. So we're going to do about 20 minutes of Q&A and then switch it back. So it's about 1:30 now. Yes, gentleman in the back.
So you mentioned that the brokers are not open to the You mentioned that the brokers are not open to the idea of sharing data with you. And I'm wondering what incentive do they have to share the data with you? Because they're guarding their walls, they're guarding their profits, they're guarding their business. So why would they do that? What incentive do they have?
So I wasn't actually specifically talking about my company. I'm talking the industry overall does not share data. So one brokerage to another brokerage, or even brokers within the same office, will not share information. And this is just from years of experience working within a large publicly traded brokerage. You might go talk to a team and you might all be considered actually the same team, but you might not share any of that information with with the person that's 3 doors down from your office. I'm not sure why they don't share information. And then the other part of that question that you asked, like even landlords, no one's asking for proprietary information, just availabilities, right? Like what is available in your building sometimes won't be public information online. It could be wrong on CoStar, it could be wrong on their website, intentionally to force a broker to have to call them is what I was using that example. And I hope that makes sense.
I can give an example of why it would be absolutely in their favor to do it for most of the situations. There are it'll make sense, the cases that this doesn't work, but I've worked in a number of industries where this is the same thing, in healthcare, insurance, et cetera. There's something, at least in the machine learning world, data world, that you could call like shared insights, pooled insights, collective insights. The insights that you get by putting not even your raw data, but your aggregated data, like the insights on top of your data or statistics, and sharing those with the other customers of the vendor that you're working with, you can get back significantly stronger information than you would have gotten on your data alone. For example, we have this with our clients. They allow us to share not the raw data, but we can share the insights on top of that data and pull them together sometimes and build different insights around that. We were analyzing like a 5 or 6 year dump of phone calls for one of our customers. It was like 60,000 phone calls. And there were some insights that we had seen across all the other customers that we had looked at. And they were really important insights. They were like the single biggest drivers of lead to tour conversion rates. And that statistic simply did not show up in their data. We were trying to figure out why. When we looked deeper into that data, it was because the prevalence of them taking that action, the action that we find that is very strong signal with converting to tours, wasn't even present. Like there weren't enough examples in their data to actually find that signal. And if they didn't let us share their data, if our other customers didn't let us share their data, we just wouldn't know that. They would have no idea ever that they could change a behavior and 6, 7, 10x their lead to tour conversion rates. By sharing the data across our customers, we were able to find that out, and we were able to have like pretty enormous impact on this customer just because they opted in to that pooled insights agreement.
All right. Yeah, I think in the back, in the black. There you go.
Thank you. I work in affordable housing, and I was curious if you've seen any innovations in the housing space that have led to more affordable building, helping people bring units online faster, both in terms of residential, multifamily, and also conversions, beyond just like, I'm talking like just in general, like middle income workforce, like not just like LIHTC. I'm curious like if you've seen any innovations in that space to help developers actually build faster.
So this is something that we're excited about building in the future, but we haven't directly started this. Like we don't have evidence that this works, just theories that we think that it'll work. But one of the pieces that we're focused on in building stronger personalization with renters and property managers, that we have more data and we can better understand when people are moving in and when people are moving out. And by squeezing that time frame of when those units sit vacant, we can get more units on the market and get more people into those units quicker, which is a win for kind of renters and property managers. But we haven't put that to practice at a large enough scale that I can say definitively it'll work. It's just something that we're researching and excited about.
I'll add to that a little bit, something to look forward to. In the past 5 years of Proptech VC capital deployment, it's been focused on the upper end as an asset class. A lot of the kind of end user experience type stuff. However, the latest rounds of the past couple of years, construction and development has taken up 25% of the VC investment, and that I feel that touches upon a broader opportunity for being able to build affordably for the affordable sectors. It's a little bit of a indirect, but it's something I think that ought to improve. I think. Another question, gentleman in the middle.
So first of all, the landlords in residential now do have to pay the agent's broker that just changed in Massachusetts. So hopefully that will open up significantly more data for the residential protection. Sorry. So data is the #1 challenge in Proptech, in my opinion. Brokers are not going to start sharing data. They haven't been doing so for past 20-something years. I've been in this industry. I don't see that changing. Not in commercial real estate for sure, and residential leasing. This is a whole wild west as well. I'm very curious to know what was your approach to having the data for your organization, both in residential and commercial, from the Proptech perspective.
What do you mean by our approach to having the data?
So for you to have the right data to price properties or to market them, you do need to have a larger database that with comparables. And how did you approach getting all that data onto your business?
Sure. So one thing is that we don't focus on pricing. Like, we very much stay away from pricing, just as a side note, but it's largely the same thing in terms of how do we get the data. We focus, as both of our backgrounds are just on data collection, data aggregation, and large scale processing of that data. We really spent like 4 or 5 months just thinking about what is the least amount of data that we needed to access to actually drive insights, and that kind of pushed the product in a specific direction to enable that. So we were able to figure out ways to glean insights on data just by accessing phone calls. So that's the initial data that we start with. And we went to our customers and said, the only thing you have to start by giving us is just access to your historical phone calls. We can get enough insights from enough of those phone calls to help you understand which agents are doing well, what you can change, guide them in real time to have better conversations. So that was a pretty easy ask. Like, everyone actually has been okay giving us that data, even for pilots, even for trial periods. Obviously, like, deleting it when those trial periods are over if they don't convert. So that's how we started. We thought about, like, what is the easiest data to access? Audio data is quite easy. You can get it from any PMS. It's unstructured. We structure it on our own behalf. And yeah, everyone's just been okay with it. As we get into those companies, we build trust. We work really closely with them. We say, if we had this data, we could drive additional insights. We could drive additional impact on your bottom line, your NOI. And so we just continue to ask for more as we build trust and find places where we can drive outcomes.
Are there any data sources you guys subscribe to?
Yes. Yeah.
You willing to?
No.
Yeah. We don't, but to take your question from like what our company does at Revise, we're going to the brokerage and we're asking the brokerage, they have structured data that they're collecting, but it's unusable. They don't know what to do with it. So when it comes onto our platform, we're able to actually search their data and give the brokers insights and leverage that information. It could be from, they have a lot of these teams are pretty sophisticated. So they have research teams that are looking at the vacancy every week, every quarter, every month, but it doesn't go anywhere. It goes into a quarterly report that someone might subscribe to and read, hey, the vacancy rate, I'll get the top headline, is 35% in the CBD of Boston. We're taking the data. So when someone needs to start a search, the broker's starting with us, our platform, but it's their data. And we're not sharing data across brokerages. So if a brokerage is working with us, their other brokers are all able to share the same data within the brokerage. And the idea is if you're all wearing the same jersey, you should be able to share the same information. Now, I gave the example that is not always the case, but we're selling at the brokerage level saying, hey, you guys are collecting all this data. Why not make it accessible to every broker on your team? Because if Joe Smith wins and he's on your team and Jennifer's also on your team, it's a win for the organization. And that's what this is about. And so that's our approach to it. So we're not trying to collect data and say, hey, you give us your data and we're going to then go share it with another brokerage. That's not our model. So they're giving us the data that they're collecting and not doing anything with. And it seems crazy. It's been going on like this for years. So hope that answers your question.
One more to build off that example, which I think is maybe helpful, is obviously one other piece of information that we get for our we have multiple products. For our real-time products, we need to know unit availability and pricing. And so, like I was saying before, we try to just, anytime we ask for a data source, we try to provide value like as quickly as possible on that data source. One of our customers gave us their first day that we were live of unit availability. We always analyze that data manually first before automating anything. And we saw that like 3% of their units were priced at $10 a month, just like by accident because of data issues. So we reached out to the head of that department and we said, do you know that this is happening? They're like, we do, but like we don't notice until somebody calls in. They're like, oh, I saw a unit that was $10. Like, what should I do about it? And so we just that day set up an email campaign. Every time we see data that has the wrong number of bedrooms, the wrong move-in date, the wrong price, very simple data quality checks on our end, we just send an email to their pricing team and they have it updated. So it's just day one, we found that data. And that has been true for everyone we've worked with, is that there are those kinds of data quality issues and they appreciate that type of like product feature that we would have never expected to build way more than it is for us to build it.
All right, so we covered data a good amount. Any non-data type questions? Oh, I think the gentleman on the third row has the microphone.
Yeah, so I mean, the speakers have talked a lot about, Proptech is really emphasizing on improving the end user experience, which makes sense. PMS softwares are incentivized to really work for the property managers. So let's say for tenants, what kind of problems would be worth solving for, right? Is it a better responsiveness to an appliance failure, or what are some of the things that, you're observing need innovation?
Do you want to take this one since multifamily, or do you want?
I think you could take tenant as either way.
Yeah. I mean, from the commercial side, I think it's responsiveness of a landlord. So like in our platform, we're ranking landlords on what is a tenant experience, right? Right now, it's very easy to go get a Yelp review on a restaurant you're going to go to, but you might go sign a 10-year lease with a landlord, and the only thing you can go off of is what the broker's personal experience has been with that landlord. So if you have tenants that have been in the building, that broker has to essentially rate the landlord, is how we're positioning it. What has your experience been with, let's say it's Boston Properties or another big landlord? Are they responding to if there's an issue with this tenant in the building? Are they easy to work with? That's what is important to a tenant. I mean, we have experience working with landlords that, are on the Class A experience and the Class D experience. And the only way you can get that information is from a broker. So we're trying to take the broker's insights and incorporate it when we're doing a space match of what office space is best for the tenant. And I hope that helps.
Just my follow-up is more like, okay, I'm in a 10-year marriage now, right? I'm kind of, stuck, or I have to sublease or figure some exit route. So that's not an option, right? Like, what is the incentive for the owner? It's like, not my problem. If you're having an HVAC problem for 3-4 weeks, I'll deal with it as soon as I can. They seem to have more leverage in the equation, right? So what sort of an experience are they incentivized to even improve for the next go around?
You hear about steering all the time in commercial real estate. It's illegal in residential, right? But steering, brokers, commercial brokers, I know some brokers that will never show certain properties to tenants because of an experience like that. They had their client sign a 10-year lease, and this landlord is making millions of dollars. But that landlord, when there was the boiler blew, did not respond to their tenant. That gets filed in the back of their brain. There is an incentive, especially when you're putting it into a platform. Back in the day, it's just like, okay, that broker's not going to show us everything in the market. And sometimes they'll pull a CoStar report or whatever and just say, yeah, like these 3-4 landlords are very difficult to deal with. It's going to be a really challenging leasing process, and it's just going to be probably a subpar experience. That's what it goes off of now. But I think once you start putting it into a system where you're ranking buildings and options, or even on the residential side, where you have, you know, the tenant experiences, well, they didn't fix my fridge for 4 months. Why would you want to show that as a top option? So when you are using that data to start ranking options, I think it becomes pretty impactful and incentivize the landlords to, okay, we're going to, just like a restaurant. Restaurants live and die by Yelp.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the Yelpifying of real estate.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little scary, but that probably will further accelerate institutional ownership of the asset classes even further once there's that more public vetting going on. So I want to take one question, last gentleman in the front row, then I'll ask a couple other questions to wrap it up.
Sure. Okay. I was concerned to hear about the APIs into the PMS. And the reason is because real estate's a vertical for us, and we're going to need to connect to those systems. But we've built into our budget a little bit of a buffer, because I come out of iBanking and I know iBanking systems are archaic and they just are horrible to connect with. But I'm curious, can an incentive system be put in place, or is it on you, the tech provider, to say, well, we're just going to have to figure this out. Like, we're going to have to build around this or build something that can work.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's a huge challenge. I think whatever buffer you put in a lot more of a buffer for it. Like I'm
so conservative. I'm really conservative about it, because I think now they won't pay it. But then I've had our investors tell us, oh, they'll pay it because they need what you guys are going to do.
Yeah, I think our experience has been that a lot of our clients have been burned by startups, like startup vendors offering point solutions. And so I don't know that they're always as willing to pay. Like, you could try to pass that off to your customer. I don't know that they're always willing to pay that fee. You can try to avoid requiring the integration for as long as you can to prove the value. And then once you get the contract size, you can offset the contract size with the price of the API. It's a good question about incentives. I don't know what the incentive is. I think the only way, I guess here's my answer to that. The way to push the incentive, or the way to push these PMSs to change their practices, is to get the clients, like the bigger clients, to demand it. And the only way to get them to demand it is to build solutions from the tech side that are so good that they actually are receiving the value that they think that they're receiving. Like, I think that there was a long string, and there still are a lot of companies in multifamily that are offering products that don't show ROI. Like, we try, everything we do is impacted to vacancy loss. Like, that's our only metric. That's how we manage and price every one of our contracts, is just off of vacancy loss. So it's just very, very directly tied. So we say, however much you save, we're going to take an ROI off that. Once you do that, and we say we can save you more money if you go and push insert PMS to open up their APIs for something, that's the only way to do it, I think. I don't know if there's another way.
Thank you. I'm going to ask another couple questions, but if you guys have like last question that you're kind of dying to ask, keep it in mind. If we have time, I'll come back to you guys. So a couple more questions. One is the, agentic AI. You led with that, Peter. You guys mentioned a few times. Tell us some exciting uses you've seen with agentic AI. It does not even have to be in your kind of company necessarily, but just some of the most exciting uses you've seen.
I'm going to be biased, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're building, because it's really relevant. So we've been building a platform for almost 2.5 years. We already had smart tools that one of my business partners had developed over the years, but they had to be driven by individuals. My business partner would have to drive some of these tools to get the insights needed for some of our clients. My business partners and I all have a very different skill set. So we have essentially created a platform that would mimic what my skill set is, my business partner Meg's skill set, and my other business partner Alex's skill set. And for us, we're able to take on a significant amount of clients that we would never be able to touch. And that's essentially what most people are trying to do with agentic AI is, minimizing the amount of humans required to do certain tasks. So for us, like, we're able to have within the same platform different personas to solve certain needs for clients. So for us, we're really excited about it because you don't have to go to 5 different tools to get information that you would typically now in Proptech. Like, I came from CBRE and we used to get the best tools available in Proptech. Then immediately they would get scooped up. And the biggest problem of adopters of especially brokers trying to use them is you would have to do certain tasks through each platform. And so then brokers were less incentivized to use those platforms because you'd have to be running 5 or 6 different systems. Now with agentic AI, you can have everything kind of sitting in one single platform with different personas to solve certain needs depending on the situation. And if anyone's used ChatGPT, you can kind of see that happening now.
Love that. Ben?
Yeah. I mean, certainly automating code is great. Like writing an enormous amount of code. My team is, I would say, 1/5 of the size it would have to be if we started building this product. We couldn't have built this product, but had we built a company 5 years ago, I think the team would have.
That's big. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. It's an enormous lift in productivity. But I would say there are like different. Agentic AI is a really tough term because you could consider that agentic and that's great. And you can put that into like production really quickly because you still have software engineers that are reviewing that code and writing that code and managing that code. There are other parts of what you might call agentic AI that are letting models go off on their own and do stuff. And those are the kinds of things I think that look really cool in demos and maybe don't look as cool in production systems. And I don't know what word might come to describe those, maybe like AI driven workflows or things like that. But our product is largely that latter thing, like AI-driven workflows, and that's a thing that we're very excited about. That's what I built at Evolution IQ, and that's what we build internally, which is not letting an AI go out and just like, here's the entire thing, go figure it out to the end. It's actually building really complicated workflows where every step is software plus models, and those are making decisions, and those are helping you branch through a graph of processes that you can run. And when you run those and then you run those in real time, like our flagship product sits on a phone call with a leasing agent in a conversation with a prospective renter. And we are constantly listening for keywords and signals, and not traditional NLP keywords, but like much more semantic keywords that we define and spend hours and hours kind of refining. Then in the product, a conversation is happening. The renter says something that's interesting. We say, I heard the renter say that thing. Come look over here. This building that's 2 miles away actually has a special that attaches directly to the value prop that we just heard from the renter. And that pops up on the screen in a few milliseconds. And that's a thing that we're really excited about. That's I don't know what word you want to put to that.
That answers the gentleman's question on the third row about what kind of end user experience is up. That's a very direct example. Now we're going to talk about negative stuff like personal failures and Proptech adoption. Give us an example of when things went wrong.
I was kind of touching on it, just developing products that are really complicated to use, right? And that's the number one pointer I could give to anyone building a Proptech platform or tool is especially getting someone that's going to be who has lived in using tools in that industry or the industry expert, because sometimes you're just so complicated and you might be in a development phase for 18 months and you go and introduce this product to whoever's actually going to be driving it and they're going to give real-time feedback. And I think that's really important because sometimes you might overcomplicate it and it might not need to be that complicated for what you're actually trying to solve. But that's where I see things, because we would have tools introduced to our teams and it would be one of those situations where they were really complicated. I know the other piece, and I can mention as an example, IBM had rolled out a product that was like groundbreaking at the time. It was a facility management tool, Tririga. And the problem with the tool, it did so many awesome things, but it required an immense amount of training, a really, high IQ from whoever the users were going to be. When IBM would train these employees, they were really efficient of like learning and grabbing all these unbelievable insights into facilities management for commercial real estate. The problem would be once those folks started to leave and go to different jobs, then it became this situation of a system that was so archaic because no one knew how to actually drive the insights that were required, right? So when you're developing a product, don't make it so you have someone that is so invaluable to the company because they're the only person who knows how to drive this tool. And I think that's what sometimes happens in Proptech. And that was a great example of, a large tech company with a groundbreaking tech that, that got introduced around commercial real estate, and it's still used today. But when people left, it required a whole nother set of training for whoever's driving the insights. So
I want to try to end a few minutes early, but Ben, if you can answer the question briefly, and then we'll enter into a shotgun round.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting example, and maybe if you take a step back, creates like a larger theme of that. Because AI is so easy to use right now, there's a lot of people who were previously like not technical or not focused on product who can now do a lot of things that they couldn't have done before. And in a lot of ways, that's amazing. There's a lot of new ideas and a lot of new innovation and a lot of new demos coming out. But something that I'm watching happening right now, not just in Proptech, but in the entire space, is that a lot of products are being built, and they're being built without the traditional product and software work that goes up front to every other company that was built before these tools existed. So you're building products without security standards, or you're building product without spending hours, weeks, months on product design and development. And then you end up with products that are not secure or overly complex. And so there's going to be this first shift of like a bunch of companies that come up and say like, we'll automate that for you. And I think that'll sometimes work and not always work. And then we'll eventually come back to the space where you still need product managers. You still need engineers. They're doing different things, and non-technical people are more technical, but you still have to put that upfront work to build like really robust and powerful products.
Yep. I'll share a failure on my end. I recently tried to build an agentic AI tool, and let's just say it's like an iterative process. I think we're on like our 10th iteration. Still not working. Maybe I had the wrong developer, but I guess I'm going to use this opportunity. If there's any full stack developer in the audience that wants to partner with me on some interesting ideas that we have, please do get in touch. So we're going to start the shotgun round now. Quick 1 word, 1 sentence answers. There's just a few of them. Most used AI tool at your job other than your own tool?
Perplexity.
ChatGPT.
Nice. Yeah, ChatGPT for me as well. Smart home gadget you can't live without?
I think Alexa. Kind of love it.
Yeah.
I'd have to say OmniLogic. It's like a control panel for a pool, but that's a whole nother story.
Cool. That's fair. For me, it would be keyless locks, right? No more lock boxes or keys under the doormat.
I'm changing my answer.
Yeah. Dream Proptech solution you want someone in the audience to build?
That can't be a lightning question. I don't have time to think about that.
A tool that could capture every single piece of commercial permitting in Boston for construction costs. Go do it. And then vetting what's real and what's fake.
Right. I'll throw in a couple. A dynamic pricing data for furnished midterm rentals. I touched upon that earlier today. And then an agentic AI for guest communications, like not just a chatbot. We have plenty out there, but something that kind of really acts on guests' requests and really plays on that whole multi-system thing, goes where you need them to go. So Ben, if you...
Yeah, I tried to build this a couple of years ago. I think I'm waiting for someone to really get the digital furnishing of apartments. Would be the place where I'm excited.
Nice.
Partnering with an IKEA, being able to furnish your apartment, order those things, and they're in the apartment before you move in.
Sick. So I'll end with my last shotgun round, but I did promise a final question. So we have just 5 minutes. I really want to end early. So if we have a quick question and answer for someone in the back. Oh, was that a question for you? Who had it? Okay, go ahead. I thought you were raising your hand.
So
given the rapid advance of general solutions like OpenAI, how do you differentiate your product to make sure that you win long term?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are worried generally about that. And I think one of the things I love moving from platform space to vertical AI is that there are so many nuances, like such an unreasonable number of nuances to building in a particular product category. OpenAI, if they try to build like maybe you get to a point where the models are so good they can literally do everything, and there's more existential questions than like what is Grotto going to do about that. But in the current state of the world, it's just not it's not a realistic thing for them to actually try to build what we've built. There are far too many nuances and holes to fall into when you actually go talk to these customers and you actually look at their data and you actually look at their problems. There's no like, oh, click single prompt that's going to solve that problem. So if they want to go hire another 10 engineers to try to build a multifamily Proptech solution to compete with Grotto, that's one thing, but it doesn't feel to me in their market purview at all.
I'm kind of in the same boat with Ben. It would be such a customized solution like what we have versus OpenAI that it really wouldn't work currently unless the brokerage was providing all the data to OpenAI and there were all these, custom, pieces to the tool that would do what we're able to provide right now.
Yeah, I think that
Awesome.
question's been asked for like a very long time, and it's always a valid question, but the answer I think keeps being like general tools solve general problems.
Okay, so 3 minutes to go, and I'll ask the final shotgun round. If AI ran your home, whose voice would it be? Matthew McConaughey, Oprah, or Snoop Dogg?
I have no idea.
I signed up just to ask that question.
I think none of them. I don't think I want any of them in my home, to be honest.
So no one.
I would say McConaughey.
Yeah.
Great hair. Yeah.
For me, it's Matthew McConaughey.
I feel like if he was my alarm clock, I would not be comfortable waking up.
I'd wake up the day with all right. Audience, shout out your answer. Matthew McConaughey, Oprah, or Snoop Dogg on 3. 1, 2, 3. Snoop D-O-double-G. All right. Well, thank you, panelists, Ben and Peter, for a wonderful chat. Thank you, Boston Startup Week, for a fantastic day. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, I just want to give a huge thank you to our speakers for coming. You want to give another round of applause?